After agreeing to a framework for a new infrastructure package, a bipartisan group of 21 senators is going to be heading to the White House today to see if they can sell President Biden on the deal. Joining us right now is one of those senators, Rob Portman. Of course, he's Republican from Ohio. He's one of the lead Senate negotiators on this. Also joining us is Democratic Congressman Josh Gottheimer from New Jersey. He's the co-chair of the bipartisan House Problem Solvers Caucus. And gentlemen, the market is up today, and it may be because there is more optimism about a bipartisan deal actually getting done and seeing that additional money go into infrastructure this morning. I will admit I've been skeptical, but hearing where you are right now, it does sound promising. You've got both Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi basically sounding like they're signing off. Senator, I'll ask you first. What's the early read you've gotten from the White House just as to whether or not the terms you all have laid out would be acceptable?
It's an bicameral group here.
Senator, I'm sorry. Could you start over? We didn't have your mic for just a moment. Could you just answer that again?
Oh, sorry about that. No, I was just saying, and the markets haven't even heard from Josh and me yet, which is a rare bipartisan bicameral appearance on Squawk Box. Look, we'll see what the president says, but I will tell you we've worked very closely with White House negotiators all through this process, as well as working with Josh and his team over in the House. So we've tried to keep this as broad as possible. We now will be going out to our colleagues on both sides of the aisle, talking about the specifics. You and I have talked about this before, but this is about long-term capital investments to help the economy, make it more efficient, make it more productive. It's going to have a positive effect on the economy. It doesn't affect inflation because, in effect, it's adding to the supply side rather than the demand side, which is the issue with short-term stimulus spending. So I think this is a good thing for the economy right now. It's consistent with what every president over the last 4 or 5 have been asking for, but haven't been able to get done. President Trump, as you recall, had an ambitious $2 trillion infrastructure package. This is about $1 trillion over the same period of time, $559 billion over the 5-year period of new infrastructure. So I'm hopeful we can get a positive response from the White House today, and most importantly, it's good for America.
Josh, I have to say, hearing that the House and the Senate leadership are both kind of signing off on this, at least it sounds like that. If that's the case, that probably gives this a much higher chance of passing. What have you heard from the House leadership, from Nancy Pelosi's office?
Well, Becky, I think this is great news, and I want to give Rob a lot of credit for his leadership, and Kirsten Sinema and others in the Senate. We've been working closely together, as we've talked about here before, on getting a bipartisan bicameral deal done on physical infrastructure with roads, bridges, rail, water infrastructure, energy, and this delivers on it. And we've been working very closely together for months. The House Problem Solvers Caucus, if you remember, a couple weeks ago, we put out our package of building bridges, which was very similar to this package. And there's a reason for that. It's because we're actually working together. I know that sounds crazy. Democrat and Republican across chambers working together. But this is actually the model of how you govern together and getting it done. And as Rob just said, we've been talking about physical infrastructure and trying to get it done for years now, and we're now inches away. And I just want to thank the senator for his incredible leadership on this.
While you two have been doing this, we've also heard that Bernie Sanders is working on his own package, one that would just be voted on, would only need a majority, and that it would be the Democrats alone kind of doing this through budget reconciliation. It's a much, much bigger project, closer to $6 trillion, $4 to $6 trillion, depending on what reports you're listening to. I guess my question, Senator, I'll start with you on this, and then Congressman, you can weigh in on this too. Where are the votes? Because if you all move forward with this bipartisan deal, you are going to lose some of the more progressive votes on the left. Do you have enough to make sure that your package passes? And I guess, how do you say that your package is going to beat out over Bernie's at this point? Rob, we'll start with you.
Well, we'll see. I mean, we started off, as you know, with the proposal from President Biden, which was $2.65 trillion, again, as compared to our package, which is about $1 trillion. It also included a lot of non-infrastructure related items. In fact, most of it had nothing to do with the kind of hard infrastructure that Josh was just talking about. It also had huge tax increases, over $2 trillion of income tax increases on the corporate side primarily. None of that's in this package. So this is core infrastructure and no new income taxes, corporate or individual. And that was our goal as Republicans and Democrats, to try to pull together and do something in a bipartisan way. So my hope is we can keep that group together, move forward on that basis. In terms of reconciliation, I'll let Josh talk to that, but Democrats were going to move forward with a broad reconciliation bill with a lot of tax increases, in fact, the most in the history of our country, regardless. My sense is that infrastructure, if we can get this done separately, being pulled out of it, makes it a less attractive package for a lot of particularly more moderate Democrats. But I'll let Josh answer that question.
Thanks.
Put you on the spot.
Thanks. Well, I'd say first things first is let's get this done and get it over the finish line. I think we're close. We got to make sure we can get this out of the House as well. I think we've got a very good bipartisan group for that. We're going to need Republican votes, not just Democratic votes in the House to get this done. And, listen, we'll see what's next and what's up before us. I haven't seen any of the specifics of Senator Sanders' plan. It seems a little aggressive to me, but we'll see the details and we'll deal with that. But we got to get through this.
His plan would be more than the Biden administration has asked for, and there were a lot of people who thought the Biden administration's plan was pretty aggressive. But Rob,
Becky, I'm not exactly thrilled with lots of new taxes, and I don't think that's the right approach coming out of a crisis that we faced. So I'm focused on how we're going to get taxes down in the state of Jersey, make things more affordable. But again, I think what we should do right now is get this physical infrastructure package over the finish line and then reassess where we are.
There were some headlines floating out the other day, Josh, that suggested that maybe Senator Sanders' bill would allow for the SALT deductions, which I know is an issue that you have pushed very hard for. Which is more important to you, to get the SALT deductions? Would that buy your vote for that? Or is it more important for you to have a bipartisan deal that you move forward with?
Well, I love reinstating SALT and getting taxes down, but the bottom line is we're going to have to look at that totality of the package and see what impact it's going to have on my district and New Jersey, and also in what else is involved in that package. It's hard to talk about these things in theory. You've got to actually see the fine print, which is exactly on the physical infrastructure side and the hard infrastructure, what's taken a long time, working together, line by line, making sure we're investing in the right policy priorities and with the right dollars. Because, as the senator will tell you, being responsible and doing this the right way and is much smarter than just throwing a lot at it without a real strategy.
Oh, Josh Heimer, it sounds like you're folding on the SALT ultimatum to me. If you use that, you change your Twitter account to Congressman Josh Heimer.
Joe, have you seen the deal yet? Because I haven't seen it. I know you're close to Bernie, but I haven't seen it.
I met him on a train once. He was very nice. I can't do it with Rob Portman.
I met Josh on a train once.
You did?
On the air track.
Okay, so you don't know, but hey, Rob, what's going on with Manchin? I want to know what's really going on in his mind. What does he want? And is there something where he'll just give in on a lot of important stuff that we think, he's going to stand firm on? Is there some perk or some way that he's going to backtrack on all those promises when he gets something he wants for West Virginia or God knows what? You know him. What do you think?
Well, you'd have to talk to Joe himself, Joe.
Oh, but, he's not here, but you are.
There's a lot in this package for infrastructure for West Virginia and for Ohio and for every other state because, they've got crumbling infrastructure there. They've got the roads and bridges issue. They have a tough time paying for it. So, this is something that's going to be helpful in terms of the economy of West Virginia. I will say that. He's strongly supportive of this package, and he was a big part of it. So my hope is that for Democrats, they focus on what's good for the economy. And raising taxes right now, particularly making our country less competitive at a time when we finally have a tax rate for not so much corporations, is what I'm concerned about, but the workers, because most of the benefit of the tax cuts went to the workers based on the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office and other economic analysis. We've talked about that in this show before. When you raise those taxes, particularly raising them 5 times higher than we cut them in 2017, it's going to really hurt our workers in terms of wages and benefits and competitiveness.
There's some things that even we agree here on the show, and I'm addressing both of you gentlemen on this, and that one of them might be, and you saw probably the ProPublica piece, and I don't agree with most of what's in that piece, because if you've paid income taxes as you were accruing wealth, I don't see how suddenly that's ripe for taxation again. But let's say you have just assets that have appreciated over time that you're either going to leave to your heirs or give to charity, and they never, ever see taxation. Or what about borrowing against those assets and funding lavish lifestyles where you have income, but it's not reported income? Republicans, Rob, usually anything addressing any of these loopholes are many times are non-starters. Would you be open to something that would address some of those issues, Rob?
Well, the issue you're talking about, Joe, is probably one where Republicans and Democrats could talk about, because it's about people not having any income taxes, but rather, relying on either borrowing against their assets or in some cases, capital gains taxes. But, Joe, here's the focus that I hope we will have going forward, which is, let's not put our small businesses and our farms and our ranches in a position where they literally can't be passed on from generation to generation by not allowing step up in basis and by increasing the estate tax so high, because that's what's going on here, in combination with much higher capital gains taxes. It would be harmful to the very backbone of our economy. So that's what I'm concerned about. From what I hear about what's in the Sanders package, we'll see. But you don't want to go there because, again, Josh said it well. We're coming out of a pandemic. We finally see, a nice economic recovery. We've got to deal with the inflation issue. Got to focus on the supply side, which is what, by the way, more infrastructure is all about. And we've got to focus on ensuring that we're not doing the wrong thing now so that we get off track. Before the pandemic, remember, we had rising wages. We had the lowest poverty rate in the history of the country. We had low unemployment, historically low for blacks, Hispanics. So we had a lot of good stuff going on. We need to get back to that.
Hey, Senator, just a question as you think about the estate tax in the context of small businesses, farms. First of all, we should just note it's a very small on the farm side. It's a very, very small portion of the issues that actually would get hit, and maybe you could create some kinds of exceptions around it. But at what point do you see I always say to myself, a lifetime of not getting taxed seems to be enough, and is there an upper limit? Meaning, would you say the first $15 million, $20 million goes, but if you have a small business, at some point, the family who owns it or the individual who owns it should pay some form of taxes on it. It can't go untaxed forever, where workers don't have that. They're getting taxed every single day, and these folks aren't. I'm trying to understand how to think about that.
Yeah, what I'd say, Andrew, is that's not an estate tax issue. That's a tax issue, right? So, and that's something that I think we could look at and could address. But to that farmer you're talking about, it may be a small part of the estate tax. It's a big part of his life and his family's life. And I would just tell you, if you look at the effect of the proposal that both the Biden administration and Bernie Sanders have floated, and other Democrats have as well, it's going to be incredibly damaging to small businesses. And, that's what our country runs on. Half the people in America work for small businesses. It's about 95% of our companies are pass-through companies. So you got to be really careful, because that's what is going to get us out of this pandemic recession that we were in a strong way for lasting economic growth.
Senator Portman, Congressman Gottheimer, I want to thank you both for being with us. Good luck today. Let us know what happens at the White House.
Thanks, Becky.
Yeah. Take care.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, everyone.
Go Reds.
Okay, thanks.